Oh, by the way, your audio is smoothed out a
Cool.
lot, so
Epic.
whatever's happening in the background has stopped.
Great.
I think the everything that we do can be do we can do over shared synced browsers.
But hang
Uh,
on, yeah, but shared sync browsers that show our platform, or shared synced browsers that can show any web page, because it is of use to be able to put a little browser in the platform, because that's good for using agents to browse the web.
yeah,
But
but if you put in any browser, surely then you can get to any portal, and whether it's synced or not, is up to the web page. We know that
well, sharing
we're going to have
sharing is
synced.
no, yeah. So okay, so if I made, right, so you're saying that if I made a shared browser on our platform where we could both see the same browsing screen and we could navigate it and do whatever, then that is the equivalent of having a shared computer screen in the real world, because we always seem to just use browsers anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or even I don't know whether it's any easier or not, but even if we could both share a browser screen and
yeah.
in the background it was doing the syncing, it would amount to the same thing.
Did you mean by that like you share a screen and I see it in view only mode, and then I share another screen, which is my active screen, to you, and you see it in read only mode, sort of like how Immersed worked?
Yes,
So it
and
doesn't need to be like we both can use the thing at the same time. It just needs to be that we can see the other person's active web
right,
view,
right.
right?
It's like if you were to bring up your WhatsApp screen, I was to bring up my WhatsApp screen, um, would be effectively, in sync. I'll be texting you, you'd be texting me. You see it on yours, I'd see it on mine. I could interact with
Yeah,
mine. I can't interact with yours. That
right.
I think is perfectly fine.
Okay. Okay, cool. And then I think that so it looks like Meta is soon going to add to Horizon Worlds the ability to bring a browser screen of yours into the shared world and then have the screen there, which is sort of maybe okay. But in the meantime, how about I'll put that feature in, and then we can come to each other's home worlds, and then that's at least some change of scenery plus browsers. You can have like 3 browser windows open, spread all around the room, and we can see each other and have hands and
Yeah,
gestures and voice and all that,
that'd
right?
be cool.
Okay.
That'd be cool.
Okay, cool. So that sounds good, because man, I felt awesome having the browser there in like big high res, able to touch screen it, touch scroll, do all the
Oh, you
operations,
can touch screen it. Oh,
because
oh,
it knows your fingers, right? And so you browse the browser, and you can have 3 of these big windows, right? And I'm sure they'll add more, but you browse the browser, and our platform felt awesome in that scene. I was like, I'm in VR in this cool house
because
doing
you've
all
also
these
got
things.
audio,
Yeah,
so you don't need a keyboard.
no,
You can do the whole kind of what was that film? Minority
Minority
Report.
Report. Yeah,
Yeah, do that whole thing.
yeah. And in
Yeah,
that way, we don't need these computers for our calls, because they're the biggest pain. And you can't even get yours in here, you
yeah,
know? And so if we just had these browsers, it's like, cool. And worst case, we could go back to Fluid, where Fluid allowed you to have lots of browsers with you anyway. And,
I know,
right?
I know.
So,
I would,
okay.
I'd love that. I'd love that.
All right. So we'll get that going. So the
Yeah.
reason why I'm bringing that up is because I feel like I had a massive breakthrough, um, mostly today, but also sort of building up to it previously. Shall I jump into talking about
Yeah.
so the widgets API is the thing that I'm excited about. So it's always been a problem that all these um, all these views on the state board.
Mm-hmm.
Oh dear, I need One day I'll fix this. Today's not that day. All these widgets, these were made by me, and they need to be trusted because they can access the user account and the funds and all that, right?
Yeah.
And that means that we're restricted from having. We can't have third-party widgets. You can't just make your own widget and chuck it in there because we don't have an isolation mechanism, right? But
Yeah.
I've done a bunch of research and some experiments, and this widget is running in this is an iframe, and you wouldn't know it, right?
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't know it. And so this iframe, you can only tell because of that slight lag when it loaded.
Yeah, but it's sparky enough.
It's sparky enough, and we can.
Unless you said there was a slight lag, I would not. It looks like just a fade in. For aesthetic reasons.
Yeah. It's that too, and there's a lot of there's some tuning and all that. But the point is that this site, this is actually another site, and what I've done, and this is like super ghetto actually, but
you're leaking your whole history here, right?
I have nothing to hide.
I do.
I'll just broadcast all my private repos. That's cool. Whatever. This one. Widget account panel, and then right. This is the page that's published off GitHub Pages every time there's a commit to this branch. I'm currently in bolt.new, and so I can do a chat where I can chat and modify this little widget very, very easily. Every time I chat to it in bolt.new, it auto commits to Git, and then it causes this rebuild, which then produces this page, which then gets loaded as this widget.
That's nice. What's its hit rate in terms of accuracy? You ask it to do something, how often does it get it wrong?
I'd say 1 in 10. And every so often, it amazes me. Like, this is what it came up with for the process manager from, like, pretty much one shot. And then it gave me, like, all sorts of shit. The message queue with extra messages in it. Output queue. I was like, that's pretty cool. So
it's a single shot.
This 2 shot, but the first shot was pretty much this anyway, and it was really just tweaks and stuff.
But,
yeah.
So
it's real good.
Lots of shots.
No. But the issue that I'm having with Bolt is that this UI that we've made for the mock-up is so large now that Bolt really struggles, and it grinds on it, and it eats like a lot of tokens every call, because what they're doing is, I believe, stuffing the entire project into the context window. And so even just to change the color of something is crunchy. But that's not really the point so much. The point is that this pattern is a winner, I think, because each one of these system functions can just be a nap, where that nap loads in an iframe. And so the isolation model that I've got going is that if you make a widget and you include the artifact library, then the parent page will scope what your version of Artifact can see, but you can talk to Artifact via the parent page so that the widget has artifact with it, and it can modify the context. It can change the selected context. It can read files that you gave it permission to. It can call naps that you gave it permission to. And so this is untrusted code. And so you can imagine a massive store of these widgets where they're able to be run in a trusted environment because you can load them in an iframe, but an agent in the background can also, on the server side, load the widget in a browser and check that it does what they want it to do, and that's the jitters. That's how we can assemble the jitters out of these, this library of widgets that are just loading as iframes.
You're right, and by restricting artifact and artifact data, such as your security protocols or your identity, then it's only ever going to either display or maybe slightly fuck it up, but it's never going to leak your data because
No,
that is off platform.
right, and it's also like the iframe isolation boundary is designed for exactly this purpose. So it fits perfectly with what the expectations of the web browser are. Like that's what it was designed to do. It allows you to nest widgets within widgets, so you can have like multiple levels deep of these iframes.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I can assemble many of them together any way I like, and they can have children within them that call on other ones.
But also, without explicitly saying, create me something new in the world of jitter, it should be displaying what it thinks you should know about based on your thread.
Well, yeah. So the jitter, I took the jitter to be somewhere in between assembling what's there already and using generative AI to fill in the gaps with text or something else like that. But with these widgets, sorry.
Sorry, you carry on your thought, and then I've got a thought.
It is possible, and possible more or less now with the tooling that we have and the backend that we have to create these widgets on our platform using AI. So I should be able to chat to our bots and change files and then run the build process, because I can run any process in an isolated environment on the Fly.io dev world. So there's a nap that kicks off. It's run in isolation. It pulls in the files that were generated by the AI. It compiles the HTML file and all the JavaScript and the CSS that goes with it. Then it stores it in Artifact. And then as I'm walking around Artifact, it can pull in the HTML and those files from Artifact, stuff them into a frame, and then show them to me.
If you could do that, that would be jitters.
That would be jitters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a year and a half.
Fucking calm down, buddy.
When you're over here, last time, the whole idea was I forget the name of the application. Remember that
The tracking one?
No,
Curtains?
the one we saw that did military stuff.
Palantir's one.
Palantir, yeah. And God knows how much that cost them to do it.
Yeah.
Now, that would be really cool. My one very minor point, feel free to ignore it, is in UIs, there's usually semantic meaning in the UI components, like blue is upload in this case, or
Mm,
blue is a thing you can click, and so on.
right.
Um, does it flop consistently, or have you seen any?
Oh, it flops pretty consistently, but I think that you could change it, but you should be able to run these things and have this is the part I'm really excited about.
Mm.
You can take the widget running on our platform as you build it because we're able to generate previews of the widget, and then you can get the operator from OpenAI to look at it, click on it, type it, test it, exercise it, and then feedback on whether it meets standards or not, and then fix it.
That's cool. And then if it passes whatever tests that you've got, presumably cache it.
Publish it
So
and be like,
yeah,
here's a nap
yeah.
that has a
When I
graphical component by way of widget, and this is
when I'm
what it
talking about
does.
files, this is what I'm talking about.
Mm.
That's really nice. That's
It's
really nice.
I think it's amazing.
It's,
And then the the same isolation mechanism sort of applies to naps that run pure logic on the server side. So I'm pretty sure we got that one licked, although that was always the design goal. But this graphical thing I think is beautiful because you can also get the bots to make generative UI modifications that in a lot of cases will probably be right. They won't be fast enough for it to be real time, like I need it and then you see it, but it could be fast enough that just an everyday person could get the changes they need in about 5 minutes and possibly as a background task. And
yeah,
and that
which makes it into a screen cockpit, a glass cockpit rather.
the
So you
thing
set
the
it up,
thing that really got me
cache it.
excited is that system starts to feel like what a vibe coding platform should look like or be, because the vibe coding platforms are great to get a prototype up, but then you got to connect it to infrastructure. You got security concerns, you got isolation, you got payments, you got all this stuff. And then you got, like with Bolt.new, that's probably one of the best ones around at the moment. And then the token size becomes so great that you can't really work with serious sized projects. But here, you can be in the vibe coding platform, get instant feedback on your designs, try new bots that can loop around and fix like linting errors, color errors, style errors, whatever. So basically grind out a working thing, and then you can start using it in anger immediately. Like it can immediately show up in your home app as you made
Well,
it, and you can
it
start
it
using it.
offers it offers that thing that we were talking about 5 years ago, God, something like that,
Oh dear.
where you turn up at a meeting with someone once, you know, an app or
Yeah,
an app,
yeah,
and inside the meeting you actually build the thing.
that's right. It allows that because it makes the focus and the modularity so small that you can just assemble these little units, and it doesn't have to worry about the back end or all the other craft that goes with it.
Yeah,
It's just
because
focused.
yeah, because that's pretty much it's not ubiquitous, but it's pretty much required. And the thing that if you are working with any kind of client, the thing they always worry about is how it's presented.
Right.
And it's like okay,
So yeah,
we can
we could generate that on the fly and then let people generate it themselves to just tweak it or modify it. Like it's a
yeah.
manageable, mutatable system, I think.
Um, if I don't know what you've got left to wire up, but what you've just described is jitters.
Yeah. Um,
Uh,
the only things I have to wire up are the little shim that sits at the top of the iframe that communicates back and forth with Artifact.
uh-huh.
And then I'm going to turn all these individual things up the side here, each of these system level things, into these widgets, and then just go for gold.
And are the digits only on the right-hand screen, or can you add it to that left-hand column?
I think that you should be able to have this column be generated by reading some config off the chain. And so you should be able to like pin things to the home screen,
It
modify.
seems like, yeah, it seems like you should be able to, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
like, oh, that's perfect.
yeah.
Right.
But again, it's like, and the way that I'm thinking about it, right, is that this whole interface is really, I could make it entirely out of widgets. I've got like one big widget up the top
Oh, of course
that,
you could.
right,
Of course you could.
and
Of course
then
you could.
that big widget handles things like, am I logged in? If they're not logged in, show them the login button, blah 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 blah. Then the next
Yeah.
widget that loads is the nav bar, and it puts it in a standard place. You can vibe code up a different nav bar on the fly, replace it, whatever. You can change the, like the chat window again, and it's just it's beautiful.
No, it is actually. I've always dreamed. I remember when I was getting my private pilot's license, and I got irritated because the dials were in the wrong place, and I was calling out for, I don't know, it's a Cessna 172 Aerobat, and of course it was 40 years old.
Right.
But I just wanted a glass screen where I could just drag,
Change
drop,
it around. Yeah.
change, and have the system itself tell me, no, that's wrong.
Yeah.
You've forgotten about airspeed.
Right.
This is a glass screen, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is really nice. This is good work.
Yeah. So that's what I'm pumped about. And then we can become a vibe coding platform that we've always wanted to be, where it's just, you're just building these tiny little nuggets that are able to be navigated by an AI and stitched together on the fly, and all these little improvements shake out, and it just becomes this swarm of components.
There are some fundamental components, though, aren't they? I
Yep.
mean, account should always be there.
Um,
Some
yeah.
way of switching between, chats should always be there.
Right, but that's all possible through the interface that is exposed into each widget, because it receives the full-blown artifact widget and it's only scoped by the parent. And so if the parent is either passes down an unscoped or completely open artifact, then you can do anything and provision anything.
You're right.
And then it also, like, the widgets work offline, because we can load these iframes without touching the network, because they can be loaded off of binary data that's stored on Artifact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
And,
just
just to go out on a spur here, because we've got audio input and VR. We've got that thing that I've been asking for years, where I just walk up and down inside my office and just talk to the thing and get displayed and then shared in a VR environment. You can see the same thing.
Yeah.
I can see the same thing.
Yeah.
And we can make that thing whatever we want.
Anything we want. It's finally the freedom that we've always dreamed.
Well, I wouldn't want to be a UI designer right now.
You might find that your skills are actually very applicable, and you can make widgets that people just like.
Well, yes, of course, because Dreamcatcher, right?
So look, I'm thrilled. Like, because from my point of view, I'm like, that's all the problems. Like, from here on in, it's just building widgets and apps. Like, that's all the problems.
Well, yeah. Yeah. And, yeah. So we've got the substrate.
Yep.
We've got the UI.
Yep.
So we've now got a blank, whiteboard.
We've got a very blank Dreamcatcher. It's
Yeah.
sort of like a car that we built that has no airbags. The fuel tank's a little bit low, but and there's probably
Well,
no doors,
well,
and the boot space sucks. But
yeah. Well, I would say it's more like we've invented the ballpoint pen and paper, and now, what do you want to write?
yeah, now the bigger problem.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
That's
so
really cool.
I'm so stoked about that because that feels like the end. Like I'm like that. When I did background research on it, that's what seems a lot of people trying to build user interfaces that were based on the Ethereum smart contracts used.
Hmm.
It's a similar pattern where they'd sort of take a bundle of HTML, CSS, and JS, store it, hash it, point to the hash on the Ethereum blockchain, and then make a rendering layer that looks up the blockchain, grabs the hashed objects, loads them in a frame, and that's how they were doing blockchain powered UI. Like, so that you could
Hmm.
guarantee that the interface being presented was uncorruptibly what the smart contract or what the blockchain said it was.
Right. Hmm.
And they were using a similar technique. And I mean, thanks to O3, I've like thoroughly scoured the whole design space, really, of like how to manage iframes and rendering in browsers in a way that would have taken me weeks. I would have abandoned the search actually if I didn't have the AI to help. It's just incredible how much information and how thoroughly it can find it and then interpret my unique use case or my unique question and suggest good ideas that are on the periphery as well. They're like, oh, well, you might try using a blah, 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 or you might try using this NPM library that I found for you. And I was like, fuck, that's really good. So it's been enlightening today. I finally feel like we have the everything we need.
Right. How do I
And
start using it, or
uh,
when can I start using it? I
hmm,
hate using that question
yeah, no.
because
When. It's not so. I guess the speed at which I can code up these widgets using Bolt is pretty good. I could probably get one widget. I'd say maybe
well,
one
actually,
widget. What?
sorry to interrupt. A better way of me phrasing that question is, what can I do in order to get tooled up in terms of you need to have Bolt,
Well, I
right?
think you don't. I don't want you to need Bolt, but for now, that's all I'm using. If you play around with Bolt and get used to how it works, what I could do for you is I should maybe try and make a starter project for Bolt that's already pre-provisioned with the artifact
Oh, that'd be
interface,
helpful.
and then it's like
Yeah,
here's how you. It's got a
yes. As long
connection
as
to
it's a
the.
sandbox and I don't like shit over stuff that you're doing.
No. Well,
But
that's you can't at
yeah,
the moment because that's it has accounts and permissions and stuff now.
yeah.
So maybe that's maybe another 2 or 3 days worth of poking around, and then I can give you a little starter project that you can make artifact widgets, um, and fuck, maybe even just load them, be able to load them in here. I don't know if I'll get that far, but
Hey, well, here's a test case. The very first thing I would do is pull down a repo with CRM type data, um, and then get that displayed in various ways.
so you would
Uh,
go to. You're saying you would go to the repositories tab. You'd say that you wanted to clone a repo. You'd enter
yep,
the URL of a GitHub repo that had CRM type data.
yep,
You'd pull
yep.
it down, and then you'd
Pull it
start
down.
navigating it. And what would you do with it?
Then I would, at that point, I probably, well, given the new UI, I'd probably say customer one, I'm interested in this information. who are the key principals, who are the decision makers. What was the messages that were just last sent?
Sorry, I don't understand the scenario.
The scenario is a state board, a CRM. I want to know for customer one, in this example, I want to
Yeah.
know for customer one, what is the state? So, on the right hand side and get displayed.
So
Here's
you're talking
the
about, so
names of the
you're saying that
principals.
you would want to craft a widget that could give you a dashboard that gave you some key metrics that
Yep.
are so specialized that there's no general purpose way to look at it, but you kind of know how you want it to be, and you can chat with Bolt for now, but later our own AIs, and get
Yeah.
this UI
Yeah.
built
Yeah.
that shows you the
Exactly.
data in just the right way that it's useful to you and very compacted.
Right. And it could be anything because it's iframe, right? So uh, then I might generate a stock saying I want to look at because this is sales, the network of interactions between these individuals as a graph display where I can pull around the nodes, see all the links, do all that nice stuff.
Right, and so sounds like a fairly complex widget. You'll probably at some point you'll keep asking enough questions that you'll get stuck, and that's
Yeah.
when you need to hoist the stuck, and you can pass off
Yeah.
everything you've got as context, anonymized as needed, and now it's a stuck in the system, and
Exactly.
someone else can come along and help you and chat with you about, hey, what did it do, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And I can give examples, go backwards and forwards, escrow against, hey, I would like this, and then we'll get into Dreamcatcher World.
Right.
Um,
And then like what's
and
it worth to you, or who else needs it, or that looks fun,
yeah,
or you might
yeah,
even be like, here's free tokens if you're working on this project, which is probably
yeah,
a really good incentive to be able to give out on the platform, where you're like, if we had a bot that could police that you were genuinely burning tokens towards a specific problem, then we should allow you to escrow token funding, where you're like, I'll pay for your tokens just to try and find the answer. Um,
Oh,
you know,
that's interesting.
and in that way, because people use AI for fun, right? And if you came in and you burned $5 worth of tokens, and you're like, that was great fun, and you solved a thing,
Ah,
and someone else
yeah,
paid for your tokens, you're like, yeah, cool.
yeah. The reason, if we can, uh, I'm fucking delighted with this. If we can target switch to the text that I sent you yesterday, or a series of text, around
I'll pull that up.
cost versus price. What you just said is very interesting because, um, and this is yet to be proven, and I haven't spent a second on modeling it, but it was essentially stocks. If we assume stocks are the value, then we want to, how are stocks generated? Stocks are generated by usage. How is usage generated? It's by network size. More people working together will get stuck more often, and therefore that maximizes stocks. And so we want to minimize the cost for usage. We want to get back a reasonable margin over the cost of stocks. Is my thinking around this?
Yeah. So to summarize what I'd already said back in the message is that any kind of business model where we can subsidize the tokens below cost is a whoppingly great advantage to us, because
Right.
everyone right now
Yeah.
is still, you got to pay you got to pass through the cost of the tokens at least, and then add your margin on top. But if we can get it to be 10% less, people will just run to us. They're like, well, I'd take the 10% hit because the price is a big deal to most people. And
Yeah. But
if
yeah.
it could get down to free, then, that's even you know.
So my follow up. So you got the model, and again, I was just like freeballing it. If the values in the stocks, you want to maximize for stocks and stock generation, and therefore you want to minimize the barriers to entry, ideally down to zero to the network.
Hmm.
Now, if you get to that stage, um, typically stocks could be correlated with contracts, and you know what software contracts cost. I mean, don't get out of bed for less than 10 grand. It can go up to 100 grand to solve the thing, but it's actually previously a lot to do with the toil of just putting in code, putting in tests, and so on. But you've just demonstrated a way of doing that where it's actually simple reasoning.
Mm.
But the value of the stock remains the same. It's like, if I spend $10,000 on this stock, I know I'm going to, as a business, get 30,000 back. Happy days.
Yeah, I disagree that you'll be able to keep charging the same price going forwards. And I
But relative price, though, relative price
yeah.
in terms of
What are we talking about here? Like, I agree with you, and we need to. I don't think there's, even if we found a model, like, I think the perfect model is that you're like, here's a pool of money. This pool of money is going to be applied to subsidize or even make free the usage on the platform with certain conditions. And then if you want to put money into that, great. And if no one puts money in, then the tokens have to be whatever the tokens are. But
right.
that's an easy way to get that going. Like, the mechanisms
Yeah.
that we've put in place support that fully. And I think that's
Yeah.
a great thing to do.
So my question really is, and I haven't come up with an answer to this, I'm still thinking about it, is how do we apply the market forces inherent in the Dreamcatcher in order to change that mechanism? Maybe that's not the best mechanism. I think it is, but that's because I'm sitting here in a hut in Scotland. And
Yeah, I think again it comes down to putting a stuck up for it, finding some sort of comparison or metrics to measure what better or worse looks like, asking the AI to toil away and grind over papers and things and look for other people's solutions, and as always be open to change. I mean, the more we
but
change,
in a decentralized mechanism, we should allow forking of the payment system.
yeah. What's your point though?
Can the substrate deal with forking of the rules behind the payment system?
Sure, they just may not be compatible when you want to talk back between the two instances.
Right, okay. So there'd be no problem if there's like 5, 10 ways of
I think they're all compatible.
incentivization.
I think they're all compatible because it's about what the user subscribes to. So each one would present a different front end portal, a different version of either the UI we make, or surely they could come up with a better one. And it's like, that's their version of the Dreamcatcher. It comes in and it's got these economic rules. Go try
Right.
something else different. I mean, you could, as an actor, you could browse for these offers and you could sign up to different ones using our interface, our generic Acme interface. And you're like, I'm going to subscribe to the free tokens for all pool. Great. I'm going to subscribe to the 10% off pool because I get to keep a lot of the ambient attribution that I will receive in the future rather than losing it all. It's not that these are not
So,
exclusionary things.
so it doesn't change anything in the substrate. That's what I'm really checking for,
No,
because that's what you.
that's
That's what I've been trying
a
to do.
configuration. That's a configuration option that people can opt into, and that people can switch between freely. They can use personas to act as one group or persona to act in another.
Right,
Seems fine.
okay. Good. I was quite excited about this. This to restate, unfortunately, but to simplify for the record, um, the idea that success is minimizing entry costs and then paying for it with the value of stocks because
Yep.
stocks are the thing.
Yep. It's a
We
much
remember
cleaner
that.
version of what Facebook do, where they figured out a metric where any new user, I think it was something really simple they boiled it down to. It was like if you can make 10 friends in the first 7 days, then you're going to be hooked on the platform. And so there'll be similar metrics for this thing as well. And then
Yeah.
they know that
Yeah.
they hook you because they can keep pushing ads to you. We have a different hope, but again, it's all
Well, what we're trying to do is provide value as opposed to interruptions.
interruptions. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
So that was that one.
Okay.
Second one is so I think it was 2 calls ago. I said I'd go off and try and find what the market's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I've had to shut my Mac down because of earlier problems. But roughly speaking, there are 3 chunks of advances around agentic. There is API based, mostly Python. There are a large number of box based. Let's create a box. The box does a thing, which is basically I/O and with some control logic in some of them. The only one that really stood out was Alpha Evolve. They dropped a paper. I'll send you over a link when I turn my Mac back on. They dropped a paper yesterday. Now, Alpha Evolve is there to solve math problems, so they're not doing the same thing we're doing. But interesting enough, in the footnotes, they're using Alpha Evolve to evolve the algorithms around Alpha Evolve. So, but that's DeepMind. That's the only one I could find that had that kind of self, propagating thing. Everyone else seems to be going at the GUI level of boxes and pulling links, and then you click on the box, prompt it, input, output, some logic about which box gets pinged. And that's really it. I couldn't find anything else. And then there's the Python-based equivalent, which essentially does the same thing.
Okay. All right. Well, it sounds like we're in clear water for now. We'll see how long that lasts.
So the point of that is, I'm going to stop the search for now.
If it didn't find anything, it's not gonna. I feel like
publicized.
I feel like we're close enough. We've got enough stuff, and we're close enough to having product that the gap doesn't matter anymore. Like when we were an unknown distance from launch, and distance, it wasn't just distance in time, it was distance in options. Like we knew there was like these different paths we could go down, right? And we knew that you could go down some of those and come up with a corrupted form of the Dreamcatcher, like an advertising supported version or something like that. And if that took off, you couldn't unseat it because the pure version would have been sort of stillborn, like it would have been starved of fuel, and then now you've got this corrupted thing that is going to stick around. So that's sort of the panic, right? But now it feels like we're close enough with the pure thing, and the very nature of the pure thing being able to sort of still survive and still be intelligent, even if there aren't a lot of people using it, because as the AIs get better, its power is kind of more dependent on the AIs than the humans in some ways. Like
it seems that way, doesn't it? It seems that the pure form that we've got at the moment will naturally seek out the absolute minima. As opposed to
it feels
it
feels like there's a natural counterweight to a corrupted form, and I'm very pleased about it. But because I'll tell you just privately that over the last few days, it's crossed my mind to say, hey, maybe we should shuttle this down because I can see an incredible amount of use for just us. Like sitting there with this tool and just being like,
Number one, I think we're still recording, right?
yeah, I know, but I'm just
Okay.
expressing that, like,
I'm just saying because you said privately.
yeah, even if
Um,
even if we don't manage to be as great or as popular as we hope, the fact that it's still massively useful to us alone, so useful in fact that it's almost tempting to not want to share it with anyone, that's that's good enough. Like I'm like, this is the tool I'm using from here
can
on
I?
in.
I'll give you my view on that, and this is just my view. Uh, um, I think we should just release it because we'll still be the guys who know how to use this best
I
and
know.
fastest.
I know, and it's also like there's a lot of other reasons to release it. I'm just trying to illustrate the fact that
It's
the
tempting
it's a
to
it's a
once we've
different kind
found the
of
gold mine to keep
no
it to.
no that's not what I
Yeah.
meant. It's that it's a different kind of race because we didn't know what our end goal was. The race was there because it could have been corrupted in a way that we never got to the end.
Uh,
But now that I feel like we are at the end and I feel very safe about this is the end, then it doesn't matter as much. The race is different. The race is like we got to stand it up, we got to use it, we got to promote it, perfect it, we got to actually have it running. It's not a race against death. It's a race to live the most now.
yeah, yeah. No, I get you. Um,
That's all. I guess
uh,
there's really no action or inaction. I'm just simply sharing a feeling. Can I jump over to
yeah,
my key thing that I wanted to get out of tonight?
yeah.
So my key problem is that there's a bit of a blurring between the chats and the agentic message inbox.
Yeah. I saw that one.
Yeah, and so
Um,
I'll start. There's two problems with that, right? So the chats, this model is actually a relic of how we first started dealing with chats a year and a half ago.
yeah,
We currently have this modified form of agentic interaction by way of this message inbox, right? So all the messages come
right.
in, they go out, and you can assemble them into chats or whatever. But why would you want to talk to an agent that sorry, not an agent, just a bot that had no memory and had no improvement when you could talk to an agent? Like, wouldn't you want these chats to actually be with agents?
Yes.
Yeah,
Remembering the model is you're talking to humans. They just happen to be
yeah. And
AIs.
so, but the other question is, and I don't like how this feels, but it's worth stating because it's a practical solution.
Mm-hmm.
The software coding required to make an agent that's a true, genuine peer of yours in at the same level as the other humans is the same amount of coding as just running all that, but in one folder. So you could have, for example, internal agents that had everything that they needed within one folder within your home repo, and you could talk to them here, and that would be like private chats versus public chats. The other option is that these agents could be genuine agents that are fully owned by you and they're private to you. And the distinction between these two boxes could be the privacy rating of the communication and the context that's going back and forth.
Um, Probably do with some indexing, but what's the trade-off? What are we losing for doing that?
Um, we're losing the internal record of the chats that you had, and we're making it all external. Like there's a big part of me that feels like there's something special about having your own internal chats. But if I go into the agentic messages part, I could have input and output. Um, I should be able to have a chat with a remote agent using the agentic inbox. Like this should probably be not just messages but chats, and you can click on them and have a long running message thread. But it also needs to give information, like notifications have to come in to you somehow, like, hey, there's been a MetaQuest update. You should, like notifications need to come in as well. And you want your agents to be able to respond to those notifications. So this is causing a bit of pressure for me. These things are
Okay,
blurred and they
so
also
to
don't quite
think
fit together.
think through this, messages sound a lot like if we were to rename that as agents. So Adam, Bob, Charlie,
Right.
Dave,
Yeah.
and you click on that, and then you get your contacts and your messages.
Okay. And so that's what, so my friends would be in there too, right? Like I for convenience sake, I probably want to split my human friends from my bot friends. So like I
Yeah.
would have Maxwell, Ben, and then I'd have some agents like the routing agent, the spam detection agent, and I could talk to them, but I could talk to you guys just like I have WhatsApp open and I can pick
Yeah,
who I'm chatting to,
and
right?
yeah, and you could even have subordinates of agents.
Right.
So
Right.
agents that
So
talk to other agents are indented.
so what does that mean? What is this button then? What does the concept of chats become?
Um, that I think is the equivalent of your top level agent. The
Agent?
new
Like it's only
PA.
one? Surely I'd want to be able
Um,
to select from a range.
yeah, but remember last time we were talking about your personal assistant,
Yeah.
your main agent, your online persona.
Right, but it's not. I don't think it's main because there's only one. I think it's main because of the privilege position that it holds. It could
Yeah,
be
because
any agent, but it's fully
it's
contained within you. It's your internal agent swarm,
yeah,
right?
yeah, it's your online equivalent
Right.
who's
So,
tapping you on the shoulder and saying,
so this would
um,
be your internal team or your internal agents, and this would be
I,
your external agents, which are ones where there's a trust boundary is being crossed by the messages that.
I'm not sure that's right.
Yeah, I know.
Give me a second.
All right, I got one more thing to chuck in the mix when you finish too.
It feels like, when you've got a really good PA,
Yeah,
who only surfaces the stuff because they have the whole context
yep,
of what your life is. They only surface the stuff that they think you should know. But you can always, if you're running a company, go to anyone at any level, be the CEO.
yeah.
So it seems like the PA is privileged insofar as it filters to make life easy, but it doesn't stop you at all from drilling down to
Okay.
individual chats and messages.
Well, that would sort of fit the model loosely of it being privileged and private. You'd never want it to be public, right? Those kinds of
Yeah,
conversations.
yeah. I think
And
it
the
feels
other thing I
like
want to add in there is it strikes me that it may be necessary to put in a button down the side here that says friends, and it's not maybe not friends in the conventional sense, but under the friends tab would be listed all the agents that you currently know. You could search for new agents, all the people you currently know, things like that.
So
Because
what's the difference between friends and messages in that case?
friends is the list of friends. Messages is messages that you've exchanged with specific friends. Are you saying that just like in WhatsApp, there's no real distinction?
Yeah.
Like you always have your list is all your list of friends.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're connected on WhatsApp.
Right.
It's not a friend thing. It is another channel, which is a
Right.
message channel.
Right. And then I have groups and things.
Yep. Groups are just another form of friend.
Yeah. Or like
connection.
it's a context blanking or a focused conversation with a friend on a particular topic, really, right?
Yeah. Messages sound a lot like, quote unquote friends. These are
Well,
channels. These are message channels from people that you previously accepted, and it could be AIs, it could be people.
right. But then where do notifications fit in? Like, because
Well, best way to do that is just to have the flop to what people are used to, which is a little plus sign or a number like 9 plus.
there's like an alarm. There's a bell thing here, which is notifications, which is things coming in, and then when this exact same interface is being driven by an AI, the AI would respond to every notification and would form some kind of an internal dialogue about it and would do something about it.
Yeah,
Right?
and it may be good if your PA surfaces up because it knows your full context, saying, right, you need to look at this one. The rest, there's just all nonsense.
Yeah. I'm still lost, buddy. Like, so we got the concept of friends or contacts, chats with those contacts, notifications,
Well,
and
isn't
what's this private thing and this secretary type conversation? This privileged.
The privileged one is helpful but not canonical. It doesn't. It is the one whose job it is to look through everything that's coming in
Right,
and tap
but
you on the
you
shoulder.
could argue that, like, even if you had a really good PA, you'd probably still talk to them on WhatsApp, and they'd sit there as like a starred contact or a favorite contact, but they'd just be in that list along with everyone else, right?
No, because what you want them to do is to proactively say, you do remember that you're going out to dinner with your wife tonight.
Yeah, but they're sending you a message in WhatsApp, and it's up to you
Right.
to look at it, right?
Yeah. So I think there's a privileged PA, and then there is everyone else in WhatsApp style, which you can drill down to.
But why isn't that just the same list of people with just segmentations? Like, this is your inner circle of friends, this is your privileged secretary, whom you may have several, depending on what the specialities or the topics you wanted each one to have. There's nothing wrong with having multiple agents there. Then there's the people you don't really know, and then you also want to be able to receive messages from people you've never heard of before, and you want your PA to screen them.
Filtering level. That's the only difference, isn't it?
So it's kind of, I'll tell you what's weird about this, is that it's like having a WhatsApp, group or a WhatsApp, the WhatsApp app, except a couple of people on your contact list can actually reach inside your copy of WhatsApp and delete messages or add messages or modify. They can act like you,
Yes.
right? and then
Yeah,
they give
yeah,
you
yeah.
back your phone, and they're like, "Here you go, I cleaned up all your crap."
That's precisely it. That's
Yeah.
precisely it. But isn't that really valuable? I mean, that's a
Yes,
good
it is.
PA would do
Yes,
that.
yes, it is. And so, what becomes of the concept of multiple chats? Do multiple chats not have relevance in a system where agents have memory good enough? I feel like we would still need topical segregation within a chat with a person, within a particular person.
Isn't that a context sensitive privileged agent?
Well, why can't I have a chat with an agent that I don't even know about? Maybe Vladimir Putin puts an agent up that tries to justify the war, right? And you're like, fuck this guy, I'm gonna ruin this guy. But then you're gonna have multiple goes at it, right? You're gonna have multiple chats. And so there's
Oh yeah,
this,
I see where you're driving at.
like,
Okay.
WhatsApp is funny because they simplified it by making it sort of against the grain to have multiple topics going on with the same person. It's just a continuous stream where it's like they don't identify topics, but we have grown accustomed to topics because the AIs work best in a thread.
It's almost like, and this is not an answer to your question. I'm just thinking out loud. It's almost like um, a thread is one of these privileged agents that is interested in what you're talking about in the thread versus your inbox, which is passive. You you know, passive
I think I
insofar.
think maybe there's no distinction between the inbox, the chats, and the friends list. So I'm gonna chuck out a model if that's cool, and then we can straw man
Yeah,
it and tear it down.
okay,
Okay,
cool.
I think notifications becomes separate. That's like any kind of, they basically serve as the basis for triggers. Now, as a
Yeah,
human, I can
yep.
configure agents to go in there and mute some notifications or process them, or they can trip off some of my agents and cause them to
Or it could
react.
just be notification from a cron, in which case, don't tell me about it, just do it.
Yeah, it could be anything like that. And basically, every event in the system goes through the notification stream, but as a human, you only see a subset based on the filtration and the processing, the curation that your configured agents do for you. Yeah.
Yep,
Yep. Okay.
yep.
And then when an agent, a genuine agent, is running at the actor level, those notifications are critical because that's what kicks the agent into action. That's its heartbeat. That's what the cron tells it, go, do something. A new file change comes in, go, do something. And so the agent is responding to these notifications, but as humans, we need to see them. We want to wire them up to change other things and trigger our agents, but they're more like triggers instead of notifications. So how about we call that panel triggers, and it's just every system change that's occurred in your visible
It's a log. It's a log.
knowledge graph. It's not a log, it's a trigger, because logs don't trigger things.
No, but logs note the fact of a change.
Yes, but logs are passive, triggers are active, and in there I should be able to see what was hooked up to the trigger and what consequence occurred because of it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So, because notifications is a purely human concept, triggers is sort of more agentic because it's like it makes it clear that that's what you hook the agents with. That's what tickles or kicks or jolts the agent into.
Yeah, the reason I said logs there was because triggers sound like something that's sitting there waiting to happen, whereas logs is what's actually happened, and whether it's drill down.
Okay, all right.
Um,
Well, I can meet you sort of in the middle and just call it events.
Events. Yeah. Good.
Okay, events. All right. So events goes
Yep.
in and it looks like a log, but You can attach to it sometimes if you want to use as a trigger, and it can be filtered and curated as a human to be seeing only what you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. All right. So that pulled off some of the problem away from us. And just to be abundantly clear, when you're running as a genuine agent, the events is the only thing that can start the agent from going, start the agent working, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And one of those events, sorry, one of the potential triggers is you wake up the agent and ask it a question, which results in an event of you asking that question.
The event was I asked a question, and then the agent has now awoken and it is doing something in response to it.
Right.
Interesting effect or interesting capability is that an agent could, as its last thing it does before halting, put in a cron job for 5 minutes time, so it can cause itself to come back if it
Yeah.
wants. Right? That's a
Yeah.
legitimate thing.
Oh, I could play with that. That sounds quite fun.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, so that's good. That's whittled down our problem a little bit. And now the straw man that I want to put to you
mhm.
is that we would have one single button that was something like contacts, but it represented other actors in the system that were capable of communication at your level, the same way that you communicate. Now, that can be agents, that can be other humans, but that's also where you could view your personas maybe and like shift into your personas there so that you can communicate with people. You can have groups of friends, whatever, right? Um, and with when you would see the list of contacts, and then when you picked one, you would be able to start a new chat with them, or you would see all the chats that you had with them. And so when you're in the state board like you are right here, where the chat's up the side, it's always going to be framed with which agent you're talking to and which chat it's about. And then that allows the state board to be bonded to this one chat, because the state board kind of has to be, it feels like you have to make the state board follow the chat. Otherwise, you get really lost because you're like, where the fuck am I? Like the only action you're doing is taking part in a current chat somehow. That's all you're ever doing. It's your stream of consciousness is represented by this chat. It captures all your activity, whatever you click on, you change this, you change that, except for the one time when you change the chat. But that's the only thing that the current chat doesn't capture. But you must have a current chat.
So, again, this is straw man. It seems like there's two methods, and maybe both are needed. The first is I asked for something to happen, and then there was chats within chats within chats. Agentic wise came back, and then I said something new, and that's a thread. And then there is I'd like to go and um, talk directly to this agent about all the chats that I've had it with, a bit like a midpoint appraisal.
Because
Are you good enough?
look, in WhatsApp, I can chat to me.
Yeah. I found that recently as well. It's actually really useful.
So, can you restate your thing again, please?
Yeah. So there seems to be at least two modes here, where you start off with a trigger that gets a whole bunch of agents chatting away to each other, perhaps comes back with a question, and that is a thread. but you might also want to just talk to a single agent, however, low down the hierarchy it is, and say, right, can you show me all your responses for multiple threads?
I'm sorry, I can't grasp that. Can you say it differently or again?
Yeah, I'll rephrase it in terms of a company. You've got a bunch of employees. You've got a project, and that project, the events are the things that happened on that project. And then you got a project manager who's dealing with 3 projects, and you want to talk to that project manager about all 3 projects.
I'm getting it a little bit better. I'm so sorry. Can you
Yeah, it's
can
not.
I what's distracting me is I got a different model in my head. Could I try
Uh-huh.
and dump my model out and then I'll try to pick your one up again?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
okay. So the model I think is that your chats looks like WhatsApp, where it's a list of you would click on the chat icon and it would show a list of it would actually be friends or contacts, and it would show a whole range of all the people that you've spoken to. Now, each time you start a new thread with an agent, it's just that agent plus the name of the topic. So in WhatsApp, you would see it as it would look like the same person's face appearing multiple times down the chat history, and of course you could group it as one and all that. But you should also be able to have group chats where you can have multiple agents in there, and you
Yeah,
have
yeah. I see where
right,
you're going here. I think.
and you have your
Um,
contact list as well. And so you really do your home agent or your howl is like on MySpace. There was this friend that everyone had called Tom, and then on Facebook, I think there was another friend. I think Mark Zuckerberg used to add himself as your friend right at the start. So
yeah.
there's kind of like this default agent that starts, and they're not anything special at all. You can give anyone access to the context that you want to share. Like, even I could give you access to all my context if I wanted, maybe, in the chat that we're having.
Yes, that last part. What you said is true. There's nothing special about your primary.
No, it's just the agent that
Agent.
turned up, and you can try new ones, and it just shows up as a new chat with a new person. The person's
Yeah.
got a new avatar, a new sort of description or blurb, and be like, "Hi, I'm O3. Hi, I'm O5." Um, and
Well,
they're just
here's
agents.
here's here's a follow on. Group chats could be considered as a new agent, so long as there was a spokesperson for that group chat. So you have a whole bunch of agents that go off and work in the background, and they come back, and then one person, the jury member who delivers the result,
Mm.
talks to the judge saying,
Yeah,
"Here it
yeah, you're
is,"
right. You're
and it's
right.
the same thing. It's the
Yeah,
same
you can
thing.
model it in that same way. But so, how do I deal with this thing I'm pretty convinced about is that there must always be one chat, because this is your context or your your stream of consciousness. There must always be one chat.
Yeah, and I agree. The question, I guess, is how much do we allow people to drill down into the background thinking and um,
Indefinitely.
you know,
Like,
uh,
absolutely, I think.
in which case uh, chats are, and this is the 2D thing I was saying. So you got your primary chat. That is your chat. Knows the full context. Happy days. Nothing special about it on that. It's got the full context. You then look at what we've got at the moment as chats. Now, chats are either you're talking to an agent, in which case you want the thread when you talk to the agent to be everything you've ever said to that agent, and it could be across multiple topics, or it could be a team of agents that are busying away, but that's identical, really. And so it's almost like chats are agents. I mean, who are you talking to otherwise? I mean, chats are the output of your interaction with an AI or with another human.
Right, so I agree with that ability to nest the chats, and you should be able to trace through, like if you ask a question to an agent and then the agent goes and asks someone else and then comes back to you, you should be able to surface that or walk through it. You should be able to have a group of people, because that's like having a company in today's world. And when you talk to a company, you expect that the summation of all the things the company stands for comes back to you, not
Right.
it, right? And so you should be able to represent it as one. Do you agree that there should be always one active chat because that's your consciousness?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
and the state board is entirely driven off of that chat plus the nav bar.
Yes.
Yeah, and the only
Otherwise,
there's a
quite
there's a
quickly,
special
it
there's a
nonsense,
special widget that can cause the current chat to change, but that's the only special sort of thing. You can't unselect a chat. You can go into a new chat, but it's always with at least one agent.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you could even, this might not work terribly well, but you could even, you got your primary chat, if there was a way to talk to other chats, combine those chats
Yeah,
in
absolutely,
context.
because you can add them as context.
Yeah. But then you might not remember what the name of that chat was or how to refer to it. I mean, it's like
All right,
that
so
single chat date. I don't remember what that date was.
hang on, buddy. Let me. I want to try something that's going to seem a little weird.
Mm-hmm. I like weird.
You shouldn't say things like that. Okay, I'm going to show you something. It's going to be like the ghetto.
I think what I'm driving at while you're clicking through there is the closer we can model this UI, the start for 10, based on how, say, if you're a CEO of multiple companies where the employees could be employed by some of your companies. If we can model it along those lines, then I think we've covered pretty much everything you'd want to do.
Oh crumbs! This is maybe not going to work out how I want it. Hang on. I think I'm onto something though.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just try and. There's gonna be a lot of hand waving, and given that I do have my hands. No, that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
So I forgot. Sorry, I forgot. Okie dokie. So in the chat, where the chat goes, you could pull up the selection mode where, just like WhatsApp, it shows your list of chats. Then you pick on one and it would become the current chat you're in. But you're only ever in choosing a chat, starting a new chat, or in a chat. This is how it is, right? If we just make that call, that's how it is. And then the state board is entirely driven by that chat. So the state board's just, whatever you
Your
want
state.
it to be,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
if, for
Your state.
example, I am in the chats list mode of the chat box and I pick on someone, it would switch into the info about mode. So it would start telling me about that chat or about that person or something like that. Like that's what the state
Mm-hmm.
board could switch into, right? If I wanted,
Mm-hmm.
info about that person. And
Yeah.
so then it could also go into context mode. So this is like saying that this special little window, the chat zone or area, has these three modes. It's like contacts mode, which includes discovery, um,
Mm-hmm.
chats mode, which is grouped by person, where a given person can have multiple topics, which can be bundled into one if you want, depending on how you want to manage the UI, or actually in a chat. And you can flick between those three, but that's the chat that you're in, and then the state board is in service of whatever you're doing with the context during that chat or in those modes.
Right. And in that would be a single pane. I would say you put the privileged agent. It's a bit like pinning your wife to the top of your WhatsApp,
Yeah,
so you can always go back to your PA, your privileged
yeah,
app,
yeah,
and it can see everything you've been doing, or you can click on anything below that, and you're now talking to that context,
right.
and you can drill down and down. Yeah,
And in that way, we've kind of copied something that clearly is proven to the tune of billions and billions of dollars to work, is that model of like, I just want to look at people. Like WhatsApp feels natural, right? It never gets in the way of what I want to do. It's like
yeah. But
chats,
they've, as you say,
people,
they've spent a lot of money doing that. It's
and
like fax to email. Yeah,
they probably explored all kinds of different ways that they could have done that, and that's what they settled on.
yeah,
Every other messaging app seems to be the damn same,
yeah,
So
yeah. But now you're messaging agents. Agents have got access to Naps and Artifact. Uh, there's events that if you want to go and say what just happened, you can go in and have a
yeah.
look.
Oh wait, I need to make a change to that. I need to make it so that it's not the chat window that changes, because otherwise I can't talk about my contacts list. If the only way that I can see the contacts list is by replacing the chat, then I can't chat about my contacts list. I can't add it as context,
Oh,
right?
yeah, yeah. No, you're absolutely right. But
Yeah. So
also that
what?
gives
So
another opportunity there. If you
was
have
it?
a contacts list, um, then at any arbitrary level, if there's an agent that you have access to, you can go and directly talk to that agent all the way down if you want, and go, why did you say 2 plus 2 equals 5? Um, and then you can go back to your previous window, go to the PA saying, this agent doesn't work. Can you raise a stuck?
Yep.
So the contacts need to be different from the chats stroke agents or
All right. So were you agreeing?
chats
So
stroke.
okay. So from the top, this is how I want to lay out the interface.
Yeah.
When you click on, there's always a chat, and it starts as blank, like, "Hi, my name is Pamela. How can I help you today?" And that's the first chat you get. This is the agent that we just picked for you. Then, if you click on the chats button, down here is where you will get this view, which is
Yep.
just like in WhatsApp, grouped by agent. It's every agent. Some can be pinned, like Pamela or whoever you want to call your secretary, and then all the other chats are there. In that stateboard view, that's where you can also view contacts, or show me all the agents. Let me find new agents. I want to go searching for agents. That's also in that view, but it starts off as chats.
Yeah, and
Right.
do something along the lines of,
And we could,
who knows about the weather?
right, we could make an extra icon that was contacts or agent discovery or find friends or something like that, that could just sort of give you access to that same thing with one less click. But that's the principle, is that there's always a chat, and we have to have it that way, because when you pull up the contacts list, you need to be able to have that show as the contacts, and you are now talking about the contacts list.
Yeah, if you wanted to chat to a contact
Yeah.
that has a thread, and that thread, like contact, was an agent who wanted to generate a jitter. Is that a third panel?
One more time, please, with the last bit.
So you've got your
So I pull up
Pamela?
the list of contacts.
you got Pamela saying, "Show me all the contacts."
So
It's
over
like,
here.
then you, yep. Then you
No. I would have. Who am I talking to here in this example?
As I understand it, you're saying that is permanently Pamela.
No, that is whatever chat has been selected.
Ah, right. Okay. So you now you turn up with Pamela and saying,
I'm chatting to Pam.
Can you tell me who's the agent that deals with weather? It's like, oh,
Hey
here it
Pam,
is.
who's the agent that deals with weather?
Yeah. And
Okay.
then
Okay. Sorry.
and then in the right hand side, it might be that more than one agent deals with weather.
Right. So that would be the search. Like, it would pull up the this finding new agent, and it would grind through that for you and be like, I found this agent, this person, this YouTube channel, this other thing. I can combine several of them for you. Where did you want the weather? What else do you want to do with it? Right?
Exactly. And now, if there's 3 weather agents, and you go, oh, this one was the one.
Yeah.
So on the right hand side, you click on that.
So I
Then
click
the
there,
context comes onto the left hand side,
and
now
now
you're
the
talking
chat
to-
with that agent now pops up as this is the chat. Now I'm talking to Bard, the weather guy. Yep.
and you say, is it going to rain in Scotland? And it comes back with, does the Pope shit in the woods? And
Right. I think I can jump ahead here, and then I would go click on the contacts button again. This screen comes up. I click on Pamela, and then I go, hey,
yeah,
Pamela,
exactly.
and I select that chat to make it show up in context, and I go, hey, Pamela, this chat was bogus. Or, hey, Pamela, my last chat was bogus. And then that kicks off a whole lot of triage and doing stuff about it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what you can do
Right.
there is tree into it, saying, hey, Pamela, this is going to be the weather. Can you get me a campsite? Because I really want to go camping.
Yeah.
Find me a camping agent.
Yeah. All right.
And
Now,
it's
how
like,
do we?
very
How do we?
complex.
That feels awfully close to searching for a nap, as well as searching for an agent. Like, should those two things be blurred a little? Because all you care about is the weather. Does it matter if it was an agent or not?
No. All I care is about. Sorry, give me 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. All I care about, I don't care whether it's an AI or a NAP or bake code, an API that's provided by anything. What I'm interested in is request response.
Right.
So in that case, what would be the difference? The only difference would be with an agent, I could argue with it. If it was an API to a weather thing, I could give it different parameters.
Yeah, you can't argue with an API, right? and the
Yeah,
API is not gonna be flexible. Like it's not
it's not going to be as flexible,
personified.
but it's the same request response, and so you're going from natural language into
Fuck.
search, and then into API land
Yeah.
where it's
Okay.
like,
Well, all right. I think that we'll keep naps separate because I can. And it doesn't. I'm just so grateful that we managed to get an interface here that seems to work for us, and it also matches exactly what everyone's used to in terms of WhatsApp, Messenger, and even emails and all those things. And I can build it, and we can separate out naps as a totally different thing, and then maybe it'll occur to us how to merge the two a little better or what. But I
yeah,
do think
right,
that the finding a contact is the same as finding an agent, and they can all have profile pages that you can view and drill into and stuff like that. And then
I
separately,
I
we'll have the
yeah.
finding of naps, which is more like a traditional app store where you can browse for widgets and you can browse for logic. Yeah.
Yeah, although I do suspect that the line between agents and naps is really blurry with a well-formed nap, because it's
Um,
request response. It's like I ask a question, I'm gonna get response.
it should
Um,
be, yeah, no, it's the way, it's the interface. It's the way that you talk to it, I think, that makes it an agent, because an agent is capable of receiving context. A nap is not able to receive an open-ended question. I think that's what makes it
right,
different,
right. Yeah, yeah. It's almost
right?
like you need. Yeah, no, you're right. In due course, you could put a concierge agent in front of every nap.
You could wrap a nap in an agent easy, but it's of
Yeah.
not that much utility to do so, I think. Um, I think that
You kind of don't.
also,
You kind of don't want to know about APIs ever again.
no, you don't, right?
Um,
So here's another question for you then. When I'm chatting to an agent, what's the difference between one that I want to pay for, like I want to pay for the tokens and the storage so that it stays private?
mhm.
Oh, actually, sorry, I know the answer to that. So when I'm in the finding contacts mode and I decide that it's not a person I want, it's an agent, and I browse the agent, when I start the chat with the agent, that determines whether it's a private or a public conversation. Because if it's a private, I own the conversation, I own the agent from that point on. Like the data is private, the tokens I pay for, I can change the permission settings on that agent at any time, but ultimately, as a default, it starts private. I think that's a good way to treat it.
Public sounds a lot like a group chat that includes everyone.
Yeah, but it's also like saying that it might be permitted to go talk to its vendor, so that the vendor can train off your data or improve it. Um,
Yeah.
it may have other conditions around how it sends back bug reports and all that. So, do you think that agents and people should show up in the same search box? I'm starting to think no, that it should be you're either searching for agents or you're searching for people.
Um, I don't know. I like blurring the lines between people and AI, as you know.
Yeah, I do too. So I guess it would
Um,
be like, yeah, okay. Well, we'll
but
see how we go
we'll
with that
see
one.
from usage. Yeah, we'll see
I
from
can I can
usage.
definitely see how this model solves all of my unanswered questions. Um, I have
Cool.
a separate unanswered question. If you're willing to move on, I can dwell here for a long time, actually, if you want.
Yeah, yeah. Yep, go for it.
Next question. Okay.
Yep.
So we've sorted out how the chats and the contacts and the people and the NAP searching and all that's going to work. How,
Uh,
if you imagine that this interface is now running as an agent, how does that work? It doesn't seem to make any sense to me now that the blue text, which came from me, is the agent, because the only thing that's coming in is events that have caused the trigger, that have started up a new chat. Now, that agent could be multi-person, like it could have a contact list and there's multiple people have come in and started talking to it and it's responding. And the point is, I think that it's able to learn and see and contextualize all the conversations that it has with people, so that each time it responds to you, it's doing so from a basis of the learned experience of all the chats it's had so far. Yeah?
right. Yes. Now,
Yep.
good. Sorry. Carry on.
And so then, like, if I was talking to an agent, if I looked at the agent screen here, which I should be able to navigate to by drilling down into it and showing this whole interface inside a state board where I'm analyzing the agent, then it would show as the inverse of the chat that I was having with it. So if I'm having a chat with Pam, the assistant, and I say, can you show me my list of customers? On the other side, Pam's view shows that in blue was her, like the sides are switched in Pam's view.
Like a filter.
No, an inversion, a mirror. So in my view, my blue text is me talking and the white text is Pam talking. But when I go and view Pam's debug view and I look at my chat that I'm having, my text is going to be white. Sorry, my text is...
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's much like it is slightly jarring. So, for example, when you bring up WhatsApp on these shared screens,
yeah.
that's exactly what you're talking about, because WhatsApp puts my outgoing on the right hand, incoming
Exactly.
on the
That's
left hand.
exactly it. It's exactly,
Yeah,
exactly it. And
yeah,
that's all that's happening. And you can analyze these conversations and look at them, but that's how agents see the world. They are the blue text.
yeah. And that seems reasonable, because people are probably used to it. Um, you know, even if you pick up someone else's phone and you've been texting them,
Mm,
that's exactly what you're seeing.
mm. Yep.
So yeah, yeah,
Okay. Um, can I have just a minute to check my other problems?
yeah, yeah. Well, it depends what the problems are. Because anything to do with a rash, I'm not interested.
No. Okay. I'm done. I have all the bits.
Excellent. Okay, right.
What now?
I only have one AOB. Nothing to do with anything we've talked about.
What's an AOB?
Any other business?
Okay. Do you want me to stop the recording?
Yeah, yeah, because it's not really pertinent to anything.
Okay.